Okay, guys, spreadsheet without numbers, part 2 is what we're looking at today. So what we're going to be doing is taking a look at a number of different functions that we have available, more advanced than what we've done in the past. So I have gone in and I've put in the links in there for the handouts as well as for the worksheet. The handout is this document here, covers what we're basically going to look at. So named ranges, data validation. We're going to look at some functions here: Countif, VLOOKUP, query, and import range. We might get to import range. We'll see where we get with that one. The thing about this is that a lot of these commands are available in Excel as well. So it's not like it's only going to be good in Google Sheets. You can use it anywhere. And it works really, really well with stuff, reports that you get, whether they're from a Google form submission, whether it's coming from PeopleSoft and there's lists of stuff. That's what we're focusing on these sessions, not financial. I don't do financial stuff whatsoever. So this will make it safe for everyone. Oh, you don't need that because we're already on this sheet. All right. So has everyone made a copy of this document here? So where it says the worksheet, if you click on that, it will make a link for you, or sorry, it'll make a copy of it. I'm trying to open the screen up so I can see if anyone's got a question, but my God, it won't let me open it up. So if you have any questions, and if you haven't opened it up, let me know audibly because I can't see anything. And I'm just going to keep going. And if I don't hear anything, that means we're all good. So we're all good. So everyone's got their sheet open, right? So let's go into unique. So one of the things that we often will get in, whether it's in a spreadsheet or in a Google form, is we will get a list of items. And the idea with any kind of form you fill out, if I just say, what's your problem? And you just start submitting stuff, the problem with that is I don't get to see what anyone else has done. So you'll notice here, someone put in backed up toilet, someone else put in toilet backed up with a typo, of course. They both mean the same thing. But if they had both been able to see a choice called backed up toilet, they both would have chosen that. That becomes really important because when we're trying to do filtering and trying to do our data crunching and reports and stuff like that, if it doesn't match, if they're two different things, they show up as two different lines, then that's two different pieces of data, even though they mean the same thing. So what I'm going to show you is how we're going to go and create a drop-down menu so that everything is going to be the same. And I'm going to show you how that's going to be all sorted in that. So this is a output of a document or sort of from a Google Sheet. So this was actually pulled from the residents, and they have a form where they basically ask someone to submit it and what's your problem. And people were just throwing stuff into a blank text field. Now, I want to create a list that will show up here as the drop-down. The easiest way to do that, though, is, I mean, I could take this and as they come in, I can copy and paste it over here and make use of that, but that gets to be kind of a pain. So what I'm going to do is I actually want to, as new items get entered here, I want them to appear in this list off to the side. Now this list here, I often will create a brand new tab called choices, and I will throw that information over there. So this self-generating list does not have to be on the same page as your data. So I'm going to just take this stuff here and I'm just going to clear it out right now. And what I want to do is get one of each of these things. That's it. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with a function called unique. Now, for those of you that weren't in the first session, functions basically are like a formula or something that does a specific task. And when I enter data into a spreadsheet, whether it's Excel or Google Sheets, it basically says, hey, if you just enter some text in here, that's data. So this is all data. The moment that I put an equal signs in there, now I'm saying, hey, this isn't data. This is either a function or a formula. It's something different. So every function starts off with an equal sign. You'll notice these little black tabs up here. I've actually taken the formulas and functions that we're going to be working with, and I've put in information there. So down the road, if you need to come back and take a look and see, but this is going to help us build what we want to do. So, whoops, go back here. So I'm going to type in unique. Whoops, unique. And I'm just going to click on this. And what Google's very good about saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to walk you through the steps. Now, if you don't get this download, you might see a question mark show up to the side here sometimes. And if you get the question mark, just click on that and that'll open this up. But basically, the unique function says I need two or three things. I need to know what range you want me to look through. And then do you want what column information you may want? And you'll notice here it's showing you range by column exactly once. And as we go through each of these steps, it's going to highlight the piece we're on. Now you'll notice everything is separated by a comma here, so that works out really well. So the first thing it says range. Well, range means what are the cells you're interested in. So I'm just going to click and drag all the way down here. And I've completed the first part of that formula. So I'm going to hit a comma. Go away. Then it says by what column. So this is optional. Well, we only have one column, so we're not even going to worry about that. You can select multiple columns and do based on one column or another, but we're just going to stick with this. So I'm actually just going to close off the, remove the comma and just close it off. So D2 through D12. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me one of these over here. Dishwasher, bang. Light, bang. Fan broke out, bang. Backed up toilet, bang. Broken window, bang. Fan broken window, well, we already have one. Toilet backed up, except for it's spelled wrong. Fan on stove, fan on stove. So I'm only getting one. So this is a great unique. I would actually like these to be the same. So I'm going to go into here, copy this, and I'm going to paste it into here so that I only have two, or sorry, one of the same thing. So this is very unique. The unique function is great for things when you want to try and just grab one of each. And one of the ways that you can make use of this is when you do contests and everyone has to enter their email. You can enter it 1,500 times. I don't care. I always run unique on it, and I just get one of your email. Can't stop you from using different emails, but it can stop you from going in and entering 300 times. So that's one of those great functions that the unique does, is it goes through here, brings back one of every one of these things. Awesome. Well, what I want to happen now is this list here, whatever's in this list, I want it to show up as the drop-down piece here, which is called our data validation. So those drop-down menus that we see, normally you would manually put those in, but instead we're actually going to say, hey, I want to use the data that's in here. Now I'm just going to show you for a second. So I've got here, I'm going to put in dog, cat, mouse. Spell it wrong. So just watch here first. I'm going to highlight the data validation and go under data and select data validation. Oh, did I start recording? Yeah, I did. Okay. Data validation. A lot of times people come in here, you'll see list of items. I could manually go in here and put in horse, trailer, car, and do it that way. And that's what's going to show up there. But when you have to go and change that, you have to go in, select all the right stuff, go back in, make the changes. Sometimes you might be using this drop-down menu that has the same responses in 4 or 5 different places. Then you have to go into 4 and 5 different places to do that. Well, instead, what we can do is we're going to point to this section here. So I'm going to go back into my data validation. And instead of a list of items, I'm going to go list from a range. So this is a selection of cells. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm just, can't see it, but I'm highlighting, there we are. I'm just going to highlight this stuff here. So F2 through F6. You know what, I'm going to throw an F7 in there. So I'm highlighting that. That is where that list is going to come from. So let me get rid of dog, cat, and mouse for a sec. And when I go into here now, there's dishwasher not draining, there's broken window. If I want to manually add something in here, which I'm going to do, so I'll just put in, actually it won't work. I'm going to add it over here. It shows up here, which automatically then shows up here. So one of the nice things that we have here is we have a drop-down menu that's self-updating. As soon as someone adds something new here, it shows up over here. So let's say crack in table. Now shows up in here. It's now available for everyone. And like I said before, for most people, they're going to go, oh, is there something that already, is there something I can select that already addresses what I want? Yes or no, and I can click on that. And if not, then I can add that information in there directly. Everyone with me so far? Any questions? Okay. You got to stop me if something comes up and I can't see the screen at all. For some reason, Teams won't open up, so I just have to listen to you talk. So one of the things I'm looking at here is this is the unique, but I would like to get this in alphabetical order. Well, for those of you that attended the first session, there is a command called sort. So I'm going to first grab this unique D2 through 12, and I'm just going to cut that out so it's in my clipboard memory. And I'm going to look at the sort. So sort here command, it looks like, or function looks like this. It wants a range, then it wants what column, is it ascending or descending? So the first step is the range. Well, the range is what we had in there before. The range is actually going to be unique D2 through D12. That's my range. Okay, so there's that first part. Then it asks, here's a question mark, we'll pull it back out. Then it asks what's column? Well, there's only one column in this case, so I'm just going to say 1. And then do you want it ascending? So from A to Z. Sure, makes sense. Now I've got that added in there. And if I add something, and then of course, again, it reflects here on the drop-down menu. And if I add a new item in here, we shows up over there, and I look at my drop-down menu, I'll go up here, and whoops, oh, it didn't show up there. Why didn't it show up? That's a good question. Let's figure this out. Well, probably what happened was I added an extra line in there. So let's take a look at our drop-down or data validation. Data validation. Whoa, what's this? List from a range, F2 through F7, not sure. Okay, so F7, we actually went past F7, right? That's F8, so it's not in there. One of the challenges with working with spreadsheets is you'll go in and you'll say F1 through F2, then you'll go in and add stuff in there, and then you expand past it. If I've done this drop-down menu in 10 different places, I would have to go into 10 different places and update it, but I don't want to do that. Let me just double check and make sure I'm on the right page for what we're talking about here. Sure, this will work. So I've got this stuff in here. And let me just double click this real quickly. So it's unique. Yep. So I'm going to look at my data validation. Data validation. I'm going to clear it out for a second. F2 to F7. I'm just going to get rid of it and then come back here. Well, go away. Remove validation. That's what I wanted. I'm going to come back into here. What I'm going to do, though, is instead of selecting this F2 through F, I'm going to highlight, I'm going to highlight this whole section, and I can put in extras or not. So I'm just going to put that in there for now. Whoa, not copy down, Trevor, highlight. And I'm going to give this section a range. So rather than my always pointing to this data here, which we have in here, because remember we're saying the drop-down menu is based on F2 through here, but I want to give it a range. So I'm going to call it problems. So under data, I go to named ranges. And I'm going to call it problems. Problems basically is the same thing as saying F2 through F10. But I don't have to remember what the cells are. I just call it problems. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to highlight this section here. Go to data validation. Actually, I'm going to show you a quick trick here. If you highlight the whole column, I go to data validation. The first thing it says here, what's the cell range of what you're selecting? I can switch this to D2 because I really don't need the label at the top there that says problems. I don't need that to have a drop down because I'm not entering anything. List from a range. Well, that range before was F2 through F10, but I'm just going to type in the word problems. And watch what happens now. It's all in there. Because as far as it's concerned, problems is F2 through F10. Any questions on this? Okay. I'm going to try and open this one more time. Nope. Oh, there we go. Finally. All right. So here's all my items here, which are basically pulled from here. This is a live update. A lot of times, if I want to know how many times the dishwasher was broken or a light was broken and stuff, people will go in and start sorting data, which is absolutely the wrong thing to do. Never sort your original data, because quite often people will highlight two things or one. They'll highlight this one thing, they'll sort this, but then this stuff doesn't get sorted. So we're not going to be doing sorting. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to use something called Countif. Countif is a function that basically says count the number of times something appears in a list. So watch my screen here. Again, it's going to start with equal to. We'll type in Countif and a conditional count across the range. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me. So let's start with the range. I'm going to select this whole thing here because that's the range I'm interested in. And I'll hit a comma. Then it says, what's the criteria? Well, the criteria is backed up toilet. So basically I'm saying go through this list, find backed up toilet. And I'll close that off. Guess what? There's a count of 2 there. And if we look at backed up toilet, there is 2 of them. Any questions on this at all? Okay, watch my screen because this is where things get funky. I'm going to click and drag and do what's called a fill down. All right, and it goes through and it gives me all my numbers. I can see that there's 1 we in there. That sounds great. I can look and see that there's a crack in a table. I see there's 1 of those. And I can see a dishwasher not draining. There's only 1 of that. But wait a sec. Actually, there's a dishwasher not draining there. There's a dishwasher not draining there. So there's actually more than 1. So let's take a look at what's going on here. Right now, we have that count of D2 through D13. If I go down 1, and F2, we're looking at F2. When you drag down, it automatically goes, hey, you know what? Now we're looking at F3. That makes sense. And then F4, F5, F6, because that's what we want is that data there. However, notice it's also going D3 to D14. It's now including or adding numbers to the range here that it's looking at. So when we get to fan broke, it's at D6 through D17, which is totally what we don't want. So here's, again, a nice case where we can go in and we can say, hey, I don't want this to move. I'm going to give it that range a name. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to give this range here. I've selected it all. Actually, let's just select the whole thing here again. And I'm going to go under data and named range. And I'm going to call this problem list because it is the whole list. And we're going to go D2 through D. So problem list is what I'm going to use to search my criteria. So let's go back up top here. Where it says D2 through D13, that's where I'm going to put in problem list. And as I start typing, Google goes, hey, I notice you've got 2 named ranges here. Which one do you want? I'm going to pick problem list. That's the one I want. I'll hit enter. Now watch what happens when I do a fill down. The numbers are changing, our dishwasher is changing, but notice problem list F5. So it doesn't automatically move. It says this is what that list is that we're looking at. It's not going to change. This stuff is going to change because we want to go to the next line and next line. So now I get an accurate count of how many items that are in the system here. Questions? Okay, so basically what we've done at this point is we've gone in and we've found a way to create a list that automatically updates. And again, this doesn't have to be on the same page as the unique. It can be on a totally different page, but it's going to automatically update those items, give me just 1 of each item. I can then use that stuff here. And now that I've sorted it, I can also use it as data validation to provide me with the drop-down information here. Because I have 1 of each of these items, I can do a count and say, hey, take this list here, go through it, find out how many times backed up toilet appears, how many times broken window appears, cracked in table, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't have to manually go through using maybe filters and do a count and change it all. Everything's displayed right here. The other nice thing about this is, I'm just going to add some rows here. Oh, go back to the top. About this is I can go in here and I can create a chart. So I'm going to insert my chart. Come on. There we go. So by default, it's going to do this chart, the pie chart. I can choose any kind of chart, but I'm going to leave it the pie chart for now. We can see, let me just resize this just a little bit. Come on. Come on. There we go. So we can see here, and I could put this chart off to the side here or below this or well, but there it is. Everything's, there's 2 of these. Fan broken is 3. There's 1 of these. I can now go in and I'm just going to update a couple of these other items here and make it. Notice this stuff is live time as well as the stuff in here. So you can create yourself a nice dashboard that'll help you keep track of stuff as you're assigning things or whatever else. Questions? Coolio. All right. And again, if you need to come back, there's the answers there of what the formulas are we're using. Let's go to the functions tab now. So in the last training session, we looked at, we had a sheet there where people were doing sponsorship. And now we're getting to the point where we need to go and collect the money from the people. So what we want to do is we want to have a coordinator assigned for each person. So these are our sponsors. This is the prefix of where they live. We want to assign a coordinator and the coordinator's email. So the coordinator is going to be in charge of that person. So we're assigning, you know, it's like an agent being assigned to that person. Now, I could manually go through and add everyone's name and email and stuff, but if I change the name here to something else, now I have to go and update it and et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to do what's called VLOOKUP. Basically, on a different tab over here, it says VLOOKUP, I have names and emails already assigned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my system where I choose a name here from a drop-down list. Then the email is going to automatically update. So let's go over here and just watch me on the screen first, because I'm going to do it manually and then I'm going to come back and we'll do it together with named ranges. But I'm going to start off by going to my coordinator. So my coordinator is going to be this list of names here. So I can select this list of names here. And in this case, I will give it a name here. So where's my name ranges? And I just call it coord, meaning the coordinator. So it's list A2 through A14. The nice thing too, when you're doing those references, if you end up adding more names, I just change it once here, and then automatically anywhere that I've used the term coord or the name here, it automatically updates everywhere that's being used. But in this case, I'm going to have that list there. Go back to my function, select all here, data validation, list for my name, coord. I forgot to do that again. Try again, data validation. Make this C2. And there's the list of names. Make sense? Pretty straightforward. So why don't you guys do that really quickly? Give this a name, just the one column, and then do data validation so that there's a drop down there. Excellent, good. So now I've got the list of all the people's names. I'm going to put Beth in there. So just watch this part now, because here's the fun part. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to do a VLOOKUP. So equal to VLOOKUP. And the VLOOKUP is pretty straightforward. First it says, what are you looking for? That's the search key. What are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for whatever name is in here. Once I get that name, I want it to go over to here, find that name, and I want you to bring back the email address. So to build that, come back into here, give me my steps so we can see it. So the search key is going to be C2. All right, comma. What is the range? I'm going to just do this manually. This again is a great place where you would use a named range, and I'll show you more about that in a second. But the range here needs two parts. We need the part of the coordinator and the email address. So I'm going to actually select both sides here, because this is the lookup. This is what a response I'm bringing back. And this can actually be done over multiple columns. I can select 7 columns and then indicate that I want you to bring back, look up the name, bring back the item from column 1, or look up the name, bring back the item from column 5. All depends on what I need. But I'm selecting for the moment just these 2 here. I'll hit a comma. And then it says, is this, what column do you want brought the information from? That's where index is. So it's actually looking for a number. So not a column A, B, C, but it's actually looking 1, 2, 3. So if this is my lookup, the names are my lookup is 1, I want to bring back column 2, because that's the second column where the email is in. And then whether it's sorted, true or false. Here's the thing about sorting. if you put in, it's important that that data is sorted. So I'm going to put in true, but it better be sorted when you're using true. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But look what's happened now. I've gone in, Beth Kiss, there's her name. Let's say I change this to Kylie. There's Kylie's email address. I'm going to change it to Sue. I'm going to change it to Tony. So it automatically is looking up based on what's in here and then looking into that chart and bringing it back. Now, if I go into here and do the fill down again, we have the same problem. A3 through B9, A4 through B10. We're also getting an NA because I haven't picked anything here. But notice there's Beth. It'll work for some of them, but not all of them, because again, it starts at A4 through B10. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to do that named range again. I already named this as one range. Cool. I'm going to do this as a second range. So I've selected, and you guys can do this as well. So I'm selecting columns A and B. I'm going to go under the data range, named range here. And I'm going to call it coord list. Coord list. Again, you want to make sure it's something that's meaningful to you because you're going to reference it later on. I'm going back into here, and it's the same thing. There's my VLOOKUP, but instead of going to the VLOOKUP tab and selecting cells A through B8, I'm going to use coord list. Whoop, coord list. Throw that in. Hit enter. Now, every once in a while it says, do you want to autofill? In this case, I'll say sure. Because the beauty of this is it's using coord list all the way. So I can come down to here, I can select Beth, which was the first person, and it's still going to work. Can you guys play with that? And then if you have any problems, let me know. Again, the VLOOKUP formula is in that anywhere you see a cell with a black dot on it, that's the formula if you just wanted to copy and paste into the first cell there. But if you just try building it up, it works really well. It's really easy to do. And anytime you're using a spreadsheet, if you're referring back to something, for me, I always, 9 times out of 10, I will always go in and put in a named range, just because I'm going to use it at some point in time. Okay, excellent. Thank you all. All right, thanks, Ashley. Okay, so let's go back to VLOOKUP. So that makes sense. So the VLOOKUP is basically a source that you go through, look it up, bring that back. Well, we already have all these names here. Guess what? We can do a count. Remember that Countif function? So again, I'm going to go back to here. We're going to count the number of times these people's names show up in this list here. So I got to give this a name. So I'm going to go here and form under data, go named ranges. I'm going to give this the name of, we'll call it assigned coordinator. And it'll be C2 through C. And whenever you see the end C there with no number behind, that means go to the bottom of the column. All right. So whether it's 10 rows, 100 rows, 1,000 rows, just go to the bottom. That's what the C means. So you don't always have to put in, like, if you're doing a whole column, I could just do A2 through A. It means the whole column, regardless how many rows there are. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll call it assign coordinator. So I've assigned that. I want you guys to take a second and do Countif here using the name here and then do a count. So I'll give you a minute or two just to try that. Okay, you had your chance. I'm going to move forward here for a sec. So I'm using the function again, Countif. It's the same one we did before. So Countif, and the first thing I need is the range. So what range am I looking at? Well, that's the range under functions there that we called assigned coordinator. So it's on a different sheet altogether, which is great. Comma, and what's the criterion? I'm looking for this, or criteria, looking for this name. Close that off. And I'll fill down here again. So I'm just going to center this because I can read it easier this way. So Beth has 4, Athena has 2, Kylie has 1, Nerda has 2, Sue has 1, Tony has 0. Let's see if that works out. So yeah, I don't see Tony in there anywhere, and there's Beth with all the actions. So I'm going to assign Tony one of those things, and Beth's got too many, so I'll also assign it to Nerda. And when I go back here, all those counts are updated. So when you're doing these lists and stuff, really take a look at what else can you do. If the list already exists there, what else can we do with it? I can do counts and stuff. I mean, this is a standard list that you refer to. I've got a number of spreadsheets where there's students and then there's staff already in place. The staff are there, they are assigned to a student. So this is pretty much the same thing. These are the students. This is the staff member that's assigned to that student. I can go in and quickly assign a new instructor or faculty member to that student. There's the email address of the faculty member. And at any point in time, I can go over here and look and go, okay, you know, Nerda's got too many. Sue and Tony are slacking off. I better assign some more to them. So when the data is there, you can do more with it than just have it as a listing. Questions on anything we've done so far? It all makes sense, Trevor. Well, let's look at the next section. What we want to do now is I want to be able to assign drivers to these things here. Now, the drivers actually have already been assigned. So if we take a look here, there's the postal code, there's the driver for each of these postal codes, and then a map color. And there, I just threw the map color in, but if you take a look here, it shows you an image of the city of Edmonton. I've clustered all these things together, and you notice like T5A, T5W, T6S. I mean, they're all over the place, right? Then they're rarely in some kind of order. But I've gone and color coded them, and we have a driver who's looking after this area. I have a driver that's looking after this area. So here's the drivers. Here's their map colors. What I want to do is a lookup using this data over here. So there's the data there. So I'm not going to tell you everything. I'll let you have a couple minutes to try on your own. But basically using a VLOOKUP, we're going to go back over here. We're going to find this. And one column is going to pull back the driver. One column is going to pull back the color. So we're going to VLOOKUP on that data, and we're using this postal code as the query. I will give you a hint. Select all 3 columns here and make that a named range. All right, I'll let you go. Because the next, when we get to the exercise, you'll have all the rest of the session there. So I'm going to start off by looking at, where'd I go? VLOOKUP. Here we are. I'm going to select this column here. I'm going to give that a name to start with, named ranges. And I'll just call it map driver. So let's go look at our functions here in VLOOKUP. So I want the driver, keeping in mind that the driver is going to be column 2, the map is column 3 when we do our VLOOKUP. So driver here is going to be equal to VLOOKUP. Search key is going to be the postal code, so we'll click on that. Next going to be is the range. The range was it map driver, wasn't it? Map driver, there we are. There's my range. Okay, comma. What column? I want column 2 in this case. Is everything in alphabetical order? I'm going to assume it is, so I'll put in true. Whoops, let's put a comma in there. And then I will go away, close that off and hit enter. And we'll fill it down. Now, I want to show you something here that happens, because you'll have to go through and double check and make sure that we've got this right. But when you do true versus false, false means has some really kind of weird things weird things that happen. So what happens is these are all in alphabetical order. When you say everything is true, it's going to go through and it's going to assume that as soon as it sees part of the right answer, that's what it's going to grab. So for example, T5A, T5M, T5N, they all start the same, but they're not necessarily exactly the same. And sometimes when you use that true function, that messes things up. So I often will just use false, but I will always make sure that I've got everything in alphabetical order. And the reason, so let's see, Cheryl, John, Cheryl, John. Let's see what happens when I just fill this down. Does anything change? In this case, nothing has changed. Anything changed down here? Usually it changes somewhere. Something changes. Not today. It must be in the other spreadsheet. But be careful about that. Make sure you double check and go check like that TMN and TNN and T6S are lining up with the right people. TMN, where was this? T6S is Sam, right? So that's working fine. This color is the same formula that we have for the driver, except it's column 3. So I can just go into here. Actually, let's go to the top here, Trevor. I'll copy this. 1, 2, 3, copy it. Everything's the same. I'm still looking at exactly the same V2 lookup, postal code lookup, except for now I want column 3. And there is all my stuff gets updated automatically with the driver and whatever else. Emmanuel just moved. I'm going to put him into T6S. Watch what happens here with Cheryl in green. It's now Sam in orange. So again, it works really well as the whole purpose of a lookup is if something changes, I don't have to go through everywhere and make the change. I just change it once, everything else changes. Any questions on VLOOKUPs? Trevor, it's so exciting. We can't wait. Okay, you're going to get your chance. So the next thing is creating reports. So quite often what happens is that people will say, hey, I want a report. I want all these people in alphabetical order. I only want this here. And so people will go copy this information or make a duplicate of the sheet, cut and copy and manipulate stuff around. But then somebody goes in, changes the original data. Now you got to copy it, make another duplicate of that page and redo all the work you've done. So what we want to do is we want to be able to use this existing information to get the report that we want. Before in the first session, we looked at sort, and sort basically said, take the columns that you have here in the order that you have here, all of them here, and then sort them. I can sort them by proper name. I could sort by postal code. I could sort by SAM or color. I can sort by anything, but it's still the same 6 columns here in the order that they're in. There's a function called query that allows you to go in and pick and choose what you want. Now, the query function can be very, very deep and very, very detailed. And I am not that much of a geek that I've learned all this stuff. So I am going to show you the best add-on that I have that you can get for Sheets. If you go under add-ons here, so add-ons are well, they're add-ons. They're little pieces of software that somebody has written to allow you to do extra stuff within Google Sheets. So one that we're going to look at is called Easy Query. Now these add-ons belong in a store. You actually have to download them first. So what you're going to do, my list there, you can see I got a bunch of add-ons, but at the very bottom, you should see one that says Get Add-ons. So select that. And if I lose you at any point during this, you got to stop me because this is important. If I go in there, I'm going to search for just easy or AZ. Easy Query is what we want. So select that. Over here, you'll find a button to say to install it. So go ahead and install it, please. Or it'll show up here, it'll say install. Go and install. Once you install, it's going to ask for permission. Hey, Trevor, can I have permission to access your Google Drive and all the rest of that? Go ahead and say yes. You know what? I'll uninstall mine here and then I'll reinstall it just so that you can see the full thing. So add-ons, get add-ons. Oops, the other way, Trevor. Easy Query. Click on this. Install. Needs my permission. Yep, go ahead. Then it shows you this thing here. It says basically saying, okay, going to back T, of course, that account. Then, oh, they've cleaned this up. This is awesome. See, edit, create, and delete all your Google Sheets spreadsheets. that sounds scary. It's just what it needs to do. It's not scary. I'm going to hit allow. And it's going to install it. And now it's been installed and we can find it under add-ons. So if you've all gone through that whole step, we're now going to be able to go to add-ons and find easy query. So it's going to create a sheet based on this sheet here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take this sheet here. I am now going to go and create a brand new sheet. So another new tab at the bottom there. And I'm going to choose what information is going to get pulled over. So that's what it does. So for this, we're going to create a participant list. So all I want in there is the proper name, the postal prefix, the driver, and the color. I don't care about the coordinator. I don't care about the email. I'm the driver. I just want to know who I got to go talk to and where they live. So easy query, where we are. Whoops, come back. Easy query, create the sheet. So we're going to give this a name. I'm going to call it all participants. Or actually, just call it participants. Participants. And then I can select the columns to show. So unlike sort, which basically I just have a range and brings it over, I can go and say, you know what? I only want column B. I only want column E. I want column A and B and E and F. I don't want anything else. That's it. And I'm going to go hit create. There it is. This data that you see here is the same data that's being pulled from this list here. See Bessie Schwartz, I'm going to put in a second Z there. I'll go back to my participants list and Bessie Schwartz has 2 Zs. So this isn't copy and paste. This isn't anything else. This is a query saying, show me what's over on that first sheet and bring it over here. So it's just a mirror image. But we're just saying, I don't want all of it. I only want this stuff in here. I'm going to go to here and hit bold. Was anyone not able to get the easy query to work? All right, good. So I'm now going to go here and I'm going to be driving around and looking at stuff. Well, I don't care about the name. I'm the driver. I need to know what postal code I'm going in first. This would be handy if this column is over in the first position. I could go over here and start mucking around with my original data and stuff, but we're not going to do that. What's cool is, whoops, what happened here, Trevor? What did I do? Because we were, oh, D4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Apparently I must have hit a key. There we are. And I'll explain what I just did there in a second. Here it says select. So here it says do a query from the function sheet, rows 1 through 1,000,000. Select A, B, E, and F. Well, guess what? I could put in C in here if I wanted, just by typing in C. And it is cap sensitive, so it would have to be a capital C. And there I brought the coordinator in. Or what I can do is I can reorder it. So I want B to be first. So I'm going to do B, comma A. I'll get rid of the A from the front. So B, comma A, E, F. Now I have the postal prefix first, then the names, then the driver. And the beauty of all this is as new data gets added or changed over here in the original stuff, it just gets updated. All we're looking at with the query is a view. It says, hey, show me what this looks like using that data, but organized the way I want it. So now I can go in and do all sorts of great things to organize this. I can put my stuff into by pre-order, by prefix, or whatever I want, all sorts of things. Questions on anything that we've talked about so far? Okay, I'm going to show you a trick now. So we've got A, B, E, F. I'm going to go into here and I want to sort this data. Now, when you start playing with queries, there's a whole bunch of different things you can do. And under the spreadsheet here, there's this piece here. You can go in and find out all sorts of information about the query function. And different commands and stuff. But the ones that I use the most are this select one and one called order. Order basically means sort. I want this, so pull that data up, and then I want to order it by, and let's say I'm going to order it by column A. Now it's not the A of this column here, it's the column A from the query. So it's column A, which is the name. So I'm going to throw that in there. Whoops. and hit enter, look what happened. Everything now is in order by column A. It makes more sense to do Sam here. So I'm going to throw everything in by Sam. Now Sam is the third item here, which is column E. So I'll switch that to column E. There we go. And you know what? We've got, so here's John. John's got some T6NL, T6X, T6K, T6T, T6X. Well, they should be all together as well. So we're going to do a secondary sort. So I'm going to order it by E first, so by driver first. Then I'm going to order it by postal code by doing a comma. And postal code is the first item, which is B. And there we go. All the Cheryls, there's Cheryl. Then all her stuff is in alpha order. Then all of John's stuff, again, we're doing it alphabetizing first by this. Then we're alphabetizing by this. So now with query, we can create all sorts of reports. We could do some of this stuff with filters, but you can't hide columns and filters, right? But we can hide columns here. So I can go in and I can create these different reports. So now I have a report for participants. Questions? So let's do the same thing for just Sam. So I want to create a sheet just for Sam. Let's do the same thing. We'll go into our easy query, create the sheet. So we'll do Sam. Same thing, A, B, and EF. Difference is we have an option to put a filter in here. So I'm going to go here. I want to find where the filter is E. So where E is equal to Sam. Whoop, not same, Sam. I'll add that. New sheet's getting created down at the bottom here. Whoops, once I hit create. There's my Sam sheet. There we are. Everything is exactly the same thing. Just there's Sam. And then if I want, I can go at the end here and go order by, what is that? That's B. So now we're in order here. And if I want, I can go and change the order of this stuff here. So I can make that B, comma A. And everything matches up. How cool is that? That query, easy query function is awesome. I use it all the time. It's just a quick way of making these reports. And then all you need to do is protect your sheet. So I usually just go down here and just protect sheet. And I can just I'm going to protect the whole sheet just so I always call it protect Sam. And I set my permissions and I just say show a warning so that if anyone tries to go in there and muck around with my data in there, it's going to warn me ahead of time. Hey. Other thing I always do is if I've worked on this formula, copy it, go to the cell here and right click and then enter a note. So if you insert the note, then I paste the formula there. That way, when someone goes and mucks it up, because people do that all the time, if they happen to delete that, I don't have to go, oh my God, all my work's gone. What did I do? I just pop up here real quick, find that query, copy it, paste it back in here, and Bob's your uncle, we're off and running again. Did that make sense? I went a little fast on that one, but you guys are such keeners. Earlier, there was an error message that showed up. So remember with the query function, it basically says, hey, I'm going to go and try and bring all the data from the original place and pull it in here. So quite often you'll have people go into this query function, which again is a read only. You can't edit here. You have to go to the original to edit. But someone might come into here and there's Bessie, it's spelled wrong. So I'm going to put Bessie in right. Bessie is B-E-S-S-I-E, Schwartz. And then this is what happens. It says ref. Well, if you look at the message, it actually says we could not expand because it would overwrite data that someone put in B20. This is a read-only report. You don't make changes here. As soon as you delete that, then it goes, oh, okay, I can fill in that space again. Okay, how cool is that? Your brain ready to fry? All right, I'm not going to go any farther with that, but I am going to leave you with an exercise. So I'll show you the exercise, and then I'm going to stop the recording, and then we'll put you in separate rooms, or if you're comfortable sharing when you have a problem, I'll put you in separate rooms. It makes it easier for me, and then I can come around and look. But here's what we've got. So there's two tabs down here, is choices and a volunteer list. This is very similar to the very complicated list that we do for open house. So what happens is we start off with positions in open house. So we've got these positions, we've got the duties of those positions, and the number of positions. I'm going to assign different volunteers to these positions. So when I go to the volunteer list, here's the assigned position. So I'm going to assign them. Once they're assigned, VLOOKUP is going to provide the duties. Once they're assigned, I'm also going to get a count done here of how many check-ins and how many code checks and stuff like that are done. So over here, you can take a look at the instructions. Create data validation drop from assigned positions in the volunteer list tab, referencing column, what did it go? Come back here, referencing column B. So what that means is use this here as the position. This is my data for the drop-down menus. When I go to here, I want a drop-down menu here that is using this first data here to provide it. Okay, so that can do that. Second step is add a VLOOKUP for the position duties. So once I assign a position, have the duties show up here. Next step is create a query report listing the assigned position and name. So when everything's all filled out, I want a query that basically says, show me who's assigned to this position and their name. So I only need this item here and the name here. And it's going to be sorted by position first, then by their name. So that's what that part does. Then, like I said before, we use the Countif to figure out how many is there. And then if once we get that set up, I also would like conditional formatting so that when I assign 2 to here, it does a check here to say, hey, you've got 2 here, and it will equal, this cell will turn green. The moment that this is lookup equals that, it'll do green. I actually have the green in place. We'll do conditional formatting for red for when you go over your limit. So create data validation dropdown for assigned positions in the volunteer list. So we're going to use this in our volunteer list. So I'm going to go first here, and I am going to, I'll just only this once, but I'm going to give this a name. Named range. So in the named range here is going to be position. It's called position list. Whoops, LIST. All right. Go back to my volunteer list here. I've got assigned positions, so we're going to select all that. Go to my data validation. And again, I'm going to make this E2 because I don't need that labeled in there. And this was position list. It's weird. Sometimes it'll show up, sometimes it doesn't. So there's all my positions and stuff. Cool. I'm just going to quickly assign a check-in host and I'm going to assign in code check. So we need to do our duties here. So this is going to be a lookup. First thing, again, I'm going to go back to this choice and I'm going to create a lookup based on a range. So I have to give this another range here. So data, named range, we'll call it duties. Call it duties list. We'll hit done. Close that. Equal to VLOOKUP. So I'm looking up this item here. Then it says it's what range. So that's where our duties part comes in. So we'll call it duties list. Next step is going to be what column, right? So what index, so that's going to be column 2. And then I'm just going to hit enter, OK, and we'll update this. So check-in host, yep. Code check, yep. And I just keep on going through here. Runner, troubleshooting is needed. Setup, early morning assembly, go back to check-in, handing out name tags, et cetera, et cetera. Excellent. So we're now quickly assigning. One of the things here, and I'll show you about this, here's the positions that people have asked about. So someone has gone in and there's been a checkbox in the form. They said, I'm interested in check-in host, runner, or setup. So in the form, quite often you'll say, tell us what position or what positions you're interested in. Do yourself a favor. Don't ask them what their number 1 choice, number 2 choice, and number 3 choice are. It just makes so much more complication. Are you willing to do one of these positions? Check off which ones you want. That's all we need. Otherwise, don't volunteer for it. So we're going to go through, and I would go through and find out who wants to be check-in. So let's say I'm doing check-in stuff first. I would actually go into here and I would create a filter view. So I create a filter view and I want to know who's doing check-in. So come on, go away. So in this here, I'll just do check-in. The nice thing is once you've done this once, you can just rinse and repeat and use the same form and sheet every year, which is what we do for open house. So I'll go into check-in. It's going to show me all the stuff in here. Notice check-in sometimes with greeter, sometimes with teardown. What I'm going to do is go up under condition here, and condition is text contains check-in. So I don't have to think of all the different permutations and combinations of possible. I'm just saying if the words check-in show in there, show it up. Now I'm going to go into here. I can quickly assign check-in there. I'm going to assign this person check-in there. I can just quickly go through until I get the number of number of positions I want. So we've done all this part, but let's go back to our choices. And I have positions, but I don't have counting. So I need to do a count. So I'm going to come back here to assign positions. I'm going to do again a named range because it just makes my life easier. Named range. So assigned position. We'll hit done there. I'll go back under my choices here. Go away. We're going to do a Countif is equal to Countif. I'll just jump down there. What's the range? That was the assigned position. And what's the criteria? It's going to be check-in host. And I will fill that down, sure. I actually don't need these ones here. I'll just blank those out. But there's my positions. So I've got I have 5 there. That's too many. I have 3 here. And I can switch back and forth, or I can open up this same file into 2 different windows and watch the 2 different things as I'm doing the counting. But I can see where I've got 5, and this should be less than that. Code check is 3. I'm going to add someone else here as a code check, just for the heck of it. And notice how it changed there. Good. I go back over here. Code check turned green. That's because we have conditional formatting in play here. I'm just going to highlight these items here. Go to my format and conditional formatting, and we'll find that there is already a conditional formatting running in here. So I'm just going to pop this open real quick. E2 through 17. I'm just going to. It actually only needs up down to E7. So the formula here is we actually, instead of doing if, then, or whatever, there's or it does a text contain or anything like that. But we're looking for what's called a custom formula. The custom formula in this case is go to E2 through E7, which is in this column here. Is it equal to D2 through D7? Now we did conditional formatting in the first session. This is a little more advanced formula, but all we're saying is, hey, start in E2, go to E7. Is that range equal to D2 through D7? If it is, it's going to do this. Excellent. Now I'm going to add another rule. It's going to use the same criteria here. So I'm going to add another rule. So it's still E2 through E7. I'm applying to the range. But this time I want to know if E2 is greater than this piece here. So if the number here is greater than the number of positions we need. And if it is, I want it in red. In fact, let's make it a little bit more ready red. Ready red. There we are. So let's close that, see what happens. Look, now I can quickly at a glance go, whoa, we have too many of these check-in hosts. We have enough hosts. We don't need to do that. Let's get some greeters in there because we need some greeters. So what did I say we needed too much of? Too much check-in hosts. So check-in hosts, I'll use this guy here. He's going to be a greeter and then be a greeter. So we can quickly go through, assign stuff. Look at that, how pretty that is. We can quickly assign stuff and get a count there. And it changes color. And what I would do is I would do things like this. So I've got this sheet, this document here. I'm going to just size it down to half the size. And I'm going to move that over to here like this so I can keep track of that. I'm going to open up a new window. I'm going to put in the same link. So the same spreadsheet. We'll get there in a second. The same document, but I'm going to be in the volunteer list here so that I can quickly go through and assign stuff. So I see I need some, whoops, which column is this? This is, what do we need here? I still need 2 more greeters. Okay, so I'm going to go into here. There's a greeter there. I'll make him a greeter. And I will make this person a greeter. Whoops, this person a greeter. And notice how quickly I just have to go from one screen to the other. I can track that. If you have 2 monitors, that works out really easy. So that's it. So for a quick summary of what we've done is, well, let's go through here. So we started off, we did the lookup on the very first sheet. Whoops, doing unique. Come back here. And I'll open this up just so we can see it. And I'll get rid of that. So we've got unique running here, and then we also sorted the unique of a list of items here. So it gave us that list here. We are now using this list here to do data validation to give us the contents of our drop-down menu. And as new stuff gets added into here, it'll automatically update onto stuff here. We also went into our functions piece here, and we did VLOOKUP, where we took this person's name, we assigned the coordinator, it automatically went into our VLOOKUP file and brought their email to them. We also did the same thing with the postal prefix, where they looked it up, came in with the driver and the color there. So all that information got added there automatically. We used Easy Query to create 2 reports. One was the participants, but basically just listed everybody, but we can pick and choose which columns of data we want. We can also reorder them in the order we want, and then we can sort the data that's in that by using the order function. Keeping in mind, you cannot edit this data. It's just pulling in the original data in a new view. That's all that's doing. And then there's our VLOOKUPs that we use for our data sources. And then in the last session, we basically did an open house. And that's it.